Rain poured in sheets, drumming against the pavement like the furious heartbeat of the night. The streets of downtown Chicago gleamed under the flickering orange streetlights, slick with water and silence, except for the sound of hurried footsteps echoing from an alleyway. Amelia's breath came in short, terrified gasps. Her thin coat clung to her trembling body as she ran, clutching her bag to her chest. Her shoes slipped on the wet ground, her lungs burned, and her vision blurred from tears and rain. Behind her, a familiar voice bellowed, slurred, angry, and dangerous. "Amelia! You can't run from me, you hear me? You're mine." Her ex. Derek. The man who had once sworn to protect her now haunted her every step like a nightmare she couldn't wake from. Amelia darted across the street, narrowly avoiding a honking car. Her pulse pounded in her ears. She couldn't go back. She wouldn't. The bruises, the shouting, the manipulation, it was all too much. She had left a note and a small suitcase that morning, hoping to disappear quietly. But Derek had found her before she could even leave town. Now she was running for her life. Her eyes searched the dark parking lot ahead, desperate for shelter. A row of cars glistened under the streetlights. And then, she saw it. A sleek black Mercedes idling near the curb, engine running, headlights on. Without thinking, she ran to it, her feet splashing through puddles. She yanked the passenger door open and stumbled inside, her hair soaked, her breath ragged. "Please," she gasped. "Can I hide in your car? Please, someone's after me." The man behind the wheel turned his head slowly. For a moment, all Amelia saw were his eyes, sharp, dark, and piercing like polished obsidian. His jawline was strong, his expression unreadable. He didn't speak right away, he simply studied her, like he was assessing whether she was a threat or a ghost. "Close the door," he said finally, his voice deep and controlled. Amelia slammed the door shut, her heart thundering. "Drive," she whispered. "Please, he's coming." The man shifted the gear, and the car glided forward like a shadow. Only then did Amelia dare to look at him again. He was dressed immaculately, black suit, crisp white shirt, and a faint scent of expensive cologne mixed with danger. "Who's after you?" he asked without looking her way. "My ex," she said softly. He won't let me go. He's drunk and angry, and I just needed somewhere to hide." The man's fingers tightened slightly on the steering wheel. "Does he know where you live?" She nodded. "I tried to leave, but he found out." For a few moments, there was silence except for the hum of the engine and the rhythm of the rain. Amelia tried to calm her breathing, but fear lingered like ice in her veins. Finally, she spoke. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to intrude. I just saw your car and—" He interrupted, voice calm but firm. "You did the right thing." His tone wasn't soft, but there was something in it, something that made her feel, oddly, safe. They drove for a while, the city lights fading into quieter streets. Amelia pressed her forehead against the cold window, watching raindrops race each other down the glass. "You got a name?" he asked. "Amelia," she said. "And you?" "Luca." The name fit him, short, strong, with an edge that hinted at danger. They stopped outside a small diner tucked between two old buildings. Luca killed the engine and glanced at her. "You hungry?" Amelia blinked. "What?" "You're shaking. You need to eat." She hesitated, but her stomach betrayed her with a low growl. She hadn't eaten since morning. Luca stepped out, and she followed, clutching her coat. Inside, the diner smelled of coffee and warmth. They slid into a corner booth. The waitress, recognizing Luca instantly, greeted him with nervous respect. Amelia noticed it, the way people looked at him. The subtle fear. The silence that followed when he entered. Who was this man? He ordered 2 cups of coffee and a plate of pancakes. Amelia tried to smile. You didn't have to do this. He looked at her. You needed help. She lowered her gaze. I didn't think anyone would stop for me. His expression softened, almost imperceptibly. Most wouldn't. But I don't like men who hurt women. The words carried a quiet fury, one that made her both curious and afraid. As they ate, Amelia found herself talking more than she expected. She told him about Derek, how charming he'd been at first, how quickly the charm turned to control. How she'd lost her friends, her job, and nearly her sanity before finally deciding to leave. Luca listened silently, his gaze fixed on her but never judgmental. When she finished, she realized her hands were trembling again. I sound pathetic, don't I? She whispered. He shook his head. You sound like someone who survived. The simplicity of the words nearly made her cry. When they stepped outside again, the rain had stopped. Luca opened the passenger door for her. You have somewhere safe to go? She hesitated. Not really. I was planning to take the late bus out of town. But I don't even know where to go anymore. He studied her quietly. You shouldn't be on the streets tonight. I'll be fine, she lied. But Luca wasn't convinced. You're staying at my place. Just for the night. Amelia froze. What? No, I can't. It's not a request. His tone was calm, but final. There was something in his voice, not cruelty, but command. The kind of authority that made people obey without question. She hesitated, but exhaustion and gratitude won. Okay, she whispered. Luca's home wasn't what she expected. It wasn't a mansion, though it was clearly luxurious, a modern penthouse overlooking the city, full of clean lines and muted colors. But what struck her most was the quiet. It was peaceful, almost lonely. He showed her a guest room and handed her a towel and some clothes. Get some rest. I'll have someone bring your things tomorrow. Thank you, she said softly. You've already done too much. Luca looked at her for a long moment, then simply nodded and left. Amelia changed into the soft shirt he'd given her. It was far too big, smelling faintly of his cologne. For the first time in years, she felt safe. She crawled into bed and drifted into the deepest sleep she'd had in months. Morning sunlight streamed through the curtains. When she woke, she found a tray of breakfast on the table and a small note written in elegant handwriting. Eat something. I'll be back soon. L. She smiled faintly, touched by the simple gesture. But as she wandered into the living room, she froze. On the glass coffee table lay a black pistol, a set of car keys, and a phone with messages from names that sounded far from ordinary: Nico, Salvatore, Marco. And on the news playing softly from the TV came a headline. Police suspect Mafia involvement in last night's warehouse explosion. Sources say the elusive boss known as Luca Romano remains at large. Amelia's breath caught. Luca Romano. Her heart pounded as realization hit her. The calm man who saved her, the one who offered her safety, was the Luca Romano. The head of the Romano crime family. The man everyone feared. When Luca returned later that morning, he found her sitting silently on the couch, pale and shaken. You know, she said softly. He didn't deny it. He simply set his jacket down and looked at her. And does that scare you? Amelia swallowed hard. Should it? He walked closer, stopping just a few feet away. Maybe. There was no arrogance in his tone, only honesty. Why did you help me? She asked. He held her gaze. Because once, someone helped me when I didn't deserve it. Maybe I'm paying it forward. Amelia blinked, unsure what to say. He turned away, pouring himself a glass of whiskey even though it was barely noon. You can leave if you want. I'll make sure Derek never comes near you again. Her breath hitched. What do you mean by that? Let's just say, he said quietly, he won't be a problem anymore. Fear and relief tangled inside her chest. You can't. I can, he interrupted. And I will. No one should have to live in fear. She looked at him, this dangerous man with a moral line drawn in blood. He was everything she should run from, but also everything that made her feel safe. Days passed. She stayed, promising herself it was only until she found her footing. But every day, Luca became less of a mystery and more of a man. He was quiet, disciplined, and oddly gentle in small ways, leaving her breakfast, asking if she slept well, making sure she had new clothes and a phone. Eyes. Some men are born into darkness, Amelia. I just learned to make peace with mine. And though she didn't understand his world, she understood him. One night, as they stood on the balcony overlooking the glittering skyline, Amelia turned to him. You could leave, you know. Start over. He chuckled softly. And do what? Open a coffee shop. Why not, she said. You're good at taking care of people, even if you don't admit it. He looked at her then, truly looked, and for a moment, the walls around him cracked. You shouldn't be here, he whispered. My world isn't kind to people like you. I've lived with unkindness all my life, she said. Yours feels different. Something flickered in his eyes, fear, maybe, or longing. He reached out and brushed a strand of hair from her face. You don't know what you're saying. I do, she said softly. You saved me, Luca. Maybe I can save you too. Weeks turned into months. Derek was gone, disappeared without a trace. The police said he'd fled the state after being warned off. Amelia never asked what that meant. She didn't want to know. She found work at a small flower shop nearby. Every evening, she'd come home to Luca's quiet apartment, and sometimes they'd share dinner in silence that felt less lonely with each passing night. He never touched her, never crossed a line, but his presence was constant, protective, magnetic. Until one night, when the peace shattered. A car ambushed them outside the shop. Bullets shattered glass and metal. Luca pulled her down, shielding her with his body. When it was over, his white shirt was soaked with blood. No, she screamed, pressing her hands against his wound. Stay with me, please. He smiled faintly through the pain. I told you, my world isn't safe. Then let me be your safe place, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. Luca survived. Barely. And when he woke in the hospital days later, Amelia was still there, her hand clasped in his. He looked at her with that same quiet intensity. You should have run. She shook her head. You once said no one should live in fear. I'm not afraid anymore. A small smile touched his lips. You're stronger than you know, Amelia. She leaned closer, resting her forehead against his. And you're better than you think. Months later, the man who ruled the underworld walked away from it all. Rumors spread, Luca Romano disappeared, his empire quietly dissolved. Some said he died. Others whispered he retired. But Amelia knew the truth. Because in a small town far from the city, a woman with kind eyes and a man with scars ran a cozy little cafe together. Every evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, he'd lock the doors, pour 2 cups of coffee, and sit beside her in peace. And sometimes, when the rain fell against the window, she'd smile softly and whisper, "Can I hide in your car?" And he'd chuckle, pulling her close. "You already did, sweetheart. And I've never wanted you to leave."